intuitive viewers, and welcome to Let's Chat on Sunday. I have a guest today, and I am so excited to introduce to you Gina Splettstaszer. What? Say it again.
Splettstaszer.
Splettstaszer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a long one.
I know it, and it is. And when you see how it's spelled, you guys, you'll understand why I had an issue with it. I first want to just really quick welcome Terry and Cindy to the club, to the Intuit Club, really quick. And then I want to introduce you to this wonderful guest we have today. And I'm going to put her name right up here so you guys can see it.
You almost got it. It's with an E. S-P-L-E.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, well.
Don't
I did the best I
could. You almost got it.
So Gina is the founder and the host of the YouTube channel Aether Flows Healing Podcast. And she is an energy channel, a metaphysician, a healer, and a student of dowsing and herbalism. Gina helps facilitate healing that helps all levels of a person's energy body, including the physical. And through her YouTube channel, Gina has found her own voice through sharing her own experiences and guests' extraordinary experiences, which in itself has been healing. So welcome, Gina. I'm so happy to have you here.
Oh, I am so happy to be here. I just have to say first off that you've been so supportive in my online journey. It's been great. I can't believe it. This lady, I just cold called her and just asked her if she would be on my show. I had 5 subscribers or something, and she agreed. And you've just been so excellent. And I had such a great time talking to you the last time. So,
I appreciate that, Gina. And I'm really dedicated, or try to be dedicated, to helping people do what they want to do, because to me it's so important that that there are as many voices and options for people to listen to, people to get services from. It's all hands on deck right now, and I just feel really passionate about helping people like you. Anybody that wants to get started. I get people sending me things like, I got this download and I just wanted to share it. It's like, start a channel, start a blog, start something, because the information is coming. It's coming through all of us, and the help is coming through all of us. And so we need to all be there for each other. So I'm happy to support you, but to support anyone who really wants to get on this journey and start helping other people. It's what it's all about.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And so many people are getting, tapped on the shoulder and nudged and all the rest of it to really step up and help your communities. After the election, we were all, let's just be real. We were all super bummed and angry and confused. And I went through probably half a day of just deep processing, just really going through all the emotions, trying to just make sense of not make sense, but just kind of be more at peace with what happened. And the first thing that I thought to myself was, okay, last time for 4 years straight, you were angry, you were outraged, you were horrified. We can't do this again. We just can't, so what can I do to help first myself? Because yourself is, self-love is the foundation for everything. And then second of all, what can I do for my community? Especially, the most vulnerable being the homeless and, other people that are really going to be really going through it pretty soon. So, yeah. And then also I decided to kind of bring my healing practice and my channel kind of together into one thing to make it more accessible for people. And because I feel like people are just going to really need a lot of support coming up here. So
Absolutely. And in fact, we've got some other people. Kevin is in the house, and so is Terry, and these other amazing channels. Again, look up their YouTube channels because, like I said, the reason why for you, Gina, and for all of the other voices out there is because not every person is going to resonate with one. Not everybody's going to resonate with one person. We need all the different kinds of voices and ways of putting things out and all the different services and stuff. And it really is, like I said, it's all hands on deck time. And it's going to be even more so if we are actually having to live through the next 4 years. But like you said, I had the same epiphany and even shared a video like that on the channel where it's kind of like this time is going to be different. It's not going to be so much this resistance.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't. It
just perpetuates.
It holds us in a pattern. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And like you said, it's going to be more about allowing things to unfold and being there for each other and for the most vulnerable among us. It really, really is. So Gina, just so we can get to know you a little bit better and kind of understand where you came from to be where you are now, tell us a bit about your spiritual journey, kind of where it begins.
Well, I mean, I was very open when I was a child. I had lots of experiences up until about the age of 4. And then, parents got divorced. There was a lot of family turmoil and a lot of chaos in my childhood. And so that awareness really got shut down, like big time shut down. And I kind of just kept everything suppressed, and everything was very materialistic, and went through my 20s, just pretty much on autopilot until a lot of life. I think I had, your Saturn return when you're about 28 is when I had a really super low point in my life. And I really had to take stock of everything and just clean up my life. And so that was kind of like the very beginning of it. But there were a lot of starts and stops until I would say 2019. And I was having these constant migraines. And I went to the doctor, I got MRIs, I was on tons of medication. I was very overweight and unhealthy, and I just felt like crap all the time. And somebody mentioned to me, they were like, well, have you tried Reiki? And I was like, what the heck's that? And kind of just discounted it a lot. But I decided in the end, I was like, what the heck? Nothing else has worked. So I tried it, and all of a sudden, my chakras opened up. I started being able to feel energy. I started having all of these different awarenesses open up, and started seeing light ships, started seeing, UFOs and stuff in my backyard. And it just kind of spiraled up from there. And fairly recently, I mean, I took Reiki classes. I was certified as a Reiki master, but it didn't really resonate with me for some reason. I just kind of put it away after getting certified, and had it on the back burner for a while. And then I started working with a certain energy worker pretty intensely. And during the course of that work, I was given by my teams my own modality, which is completely different from anything I've learned several modalities, and this is just completely different from anything that I've learned. So they told me, here's your gift, here's what you're supposed to do. And I asked them how it worked, and they said, you need to go out and figure that out. So I started practicing on friends, started putting out some flyers up, around my neighborhood, and started working more with people. And then started this channel, and I was just focusing on the podcast. But I kept getting these nudges to, like, you need to get out and you need to work on this the healing aspect. So finally I I ran into somebody it was super random. I ran into somebody that I really, really connected with really well. And turns out she's a spiritual business coach. So she helped me open up my own website and do all these social medias. And so that's kind of how it started. So,
Right. And you mentioned how, you know, you would get this information and spirit would nudge you. Can you explain, especially to other people that may be experiencing it or thinking they're experiencing it, what it feels like to get a nudge? Because for me, it always seems like an intrusive thought that keeps coming back.
yes,
That's kind of how it comes
yes.
to me. And
Yep.
what does it feel like to you to get that nudge from spirit where you know, like, they're not going to let up, I need to do something? What does that feel like?
I mean, that's exactly it. It's this thought that keeps popping up, like when you're washing the dishes or when you're driving, you're not really thinking about anything, but then all of a sudden it's like, you need to go do this. You need to look at this photo. You need to, it's this like kind of not quite a compulsion, but it's just like this you feel the urge as well, but also you're kind of like, I just have to do this. I have to. And then also I would see stuff on billboards all the time that really resonated with what I was thinking about. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like one day I was driving to my house and I saw this billboard of like this child with an older woman behind his shoulder, and they had a banana up to his ear, and it was like, can you hear the invisible voice? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, all right, guys,
And
so
it's so
yeah.
interesting that you say billboards, because I think that that's the thing that I think people need to know, I guess, is because you're talking about this, is that spirit. I think people are always afraid, like, I'm going to miss the message or spirit, or I'm not going to hear it. And it's like spirit is extremely persistent. They don't give up.
Yes.
They will it will come within you, like you said, like an intrusive thought, or if they can't reach you or they feel like you're not acting, they'll go with outside of you to your friends will say things that it's like, that's weird. I was just thinking about that. Or you'll see a billboard or the same commercial will pop up again and again, or the same phrase or the same word.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And it's also a feeling too. Like if there's something that you've been pondering in your life that you kind of know you need to change, you'll feel this like tightness in the chest whenever you think about it, or like you get a little sick to your stomach. Like your body will tell you, you just have to listen.
That is so true. And, so you talked about it being, this is going to be your own modality. They're telling you. And I remember doing a lot of readings where people would be saying, like, what should I be doing with this, thing that I can do, or this thing that I like? And so often, not so often, a few times, spirit would say, this is something new. It's going to be a combination of this and this. And like you said, you kind of have to work it out and figure it out, but it's going to be new. Do you feel like there are going to be sort of a bunch of new modalities coming in? Because that kind of is what it
Absolutely.
feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, the energies are changing.
Yeah.
And the way that we do things is changing. So we need new ways of healing. And yeah, especially with the younger people. I mean, they're already in here and they have such more awareness than we do. And yeah, like for me anyway, I really like, I can explain what it does for people because I've gotten feedback from people, but I can't really explain what happens. I kind of just go into this place. It's like a feeling. And then my highest light comes in, connects with the other person's highest light, and then just all like template changes in the DNA, in your spiritual blueprint, like all sorts of crazy stuff happens. And I'm just sitting in the back seat. I'm just allowing this to happen, and it's incredible. Like I worked on a friend who had he's a fairly young guy. He's like in his mid-30s, but he had an 1.5 inch in diameter kidney stone that was going to need surgery. And we worked on it, I would say 4 to 6 sessions. And he recently called me and he's like, it's gone. Like he went to the doctor and like it blew my mind. I could not believe this. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So yeah, there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of new stuff coming out as far as healing modalities.
I do too. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. And I also wonder, because from the beginning of this channel, my what I put out, my role, what I do has kind of changed and evolved. It's just kept moving. And so often what happens is that people figure out their role like they would a job. I figured out my role or my position, and then they're afraid to move from it because it was so hard to find that one thing. So right. How did you find the courage to kind of let yourself evolve and move forward? Because it even takes courage, in my opinion, to go into something like Reiki and say, meh, it's not really, I'm not sure what this is, but I'm going to put it on the back burner. Even that, I think sometimes people feel like, well, I've got to use it because I did the classes, or I've got to do something now. But to follow that, like, okay, it's not quite, I can put it on the back burner because maybe I'm going to use it down the road. It doesn't, I don't have to force it into being right now. So how did you find that kind of courage and making those subtle changes to getting where you are now? And I'm sure it will, again, evolve and change, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, to tell you the truth, it's kind of this like sense of spiritual discontent for me that pushes me forward. That, because everyone ebbs and flows. I mean, just because you're a healer, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you're better than anyone else. It doesn't mean you should be put on a pedestal at all. You're the same, you're a human. So, I did this class, I found this modality, and I was like, it's okay, but it's not really giving me like a sense of joy or anything. It's kind of just this new tool in my toolbox. And then I would go on down the road, and I would have this kind of nagging feeling in my chest, like it's almost this like you're late for a very important date sort of feeling. It's like you're not quite there. There's something you need to do, but you're not quite there. It's like finding puzzle pieces for me. And so that's kind of what keeps me going and keeps me researching and reaching out to new people and, just learning, because I feel like I'm never going to, this is a journey. We're never going to find this plateau where we're like, floating in bliss or anything. It's a journey. Our whole lives is a learning process. So I just don't really, I don't know. Did I answer your question?
You did because you're right. I mean, I totally agree with that it is a journey. It's this kind of, and that it's all okay, right? It's all okay. Yes. Even if you misstep, it's like, that's okay. I'll reconfigure. But I feel like once you're kind of in, and when you're in flow too, I think it is a constant change. It's like things are constantly coming in. I know for the longest time, my guides were like, you shouldn't be reading on politics the way you are. It should be different. That's what, it's almost like I felt like I picked a lane when I went on YouTube. I picked a lane, so I've got to stay in that lane. And that's what people know. And that's what people in there. And just recently, they're kind of like, you can still give commentary and you can still give information that you get, but we don't want you to kind of go into those very kind of dark and deep kind of energies that are there right now, because they're not for everybody. The other thing they told me, which I thought was interesting, and maybe this is partly your journey as well, is that a lot of people are doing that now. back in 2017, not a lot of people were doing readings on politics. They were just kind of starting. And now there's plenty of people doing it. So it's like, okay, now you can move to a different lane because that's being done now. So you can now move into this lane because this isn't being done. And so you're right. It's this constant flow. And it's, and I think that the human part of us wants to just stay where we are because it's almost like you don't want to rock the boat. If you found a place you kind of like to be, or you kind of like it or whatever, you don't want to rock the boat. So you just stay there. But yeah, I totally agree with that. And I want to ask you, and don't worry, for those of you who heard ETs in my backyard, or I'm not going to let that go. We're going to go back to that. So don't worry. We will go back to that. But I wanted to ask you about right now, because you mentioned the election, the shifting energies, the changing energies, the fear energies, the worry, the intense energies coming in. How does that affect you as a practitioner dealing with energy? And how do you manage it kind of for yourself? And what advice do you have for others to handle it, even just the day-to-day?
First off, I would say grounding is the most important, for sure. I mean, I have a few simple practices that I do every day. Grounding is one of them. And you don't need to be, outside sitting against a tree or barefoot on the ground or anything. You can just imagine your root chakra lighting up, send it down to the core of Gaia, ask for a connection, bring it back up, and just let it kind of emanate through your field. And you'll feel it, your tailbone, your whole pelvic area will kind of start tingling or get warm, and you'll feel, and you can ask Gaia to transmute density. That is so important too. Ask Gaia to please transmute, negative psychic energy or, trapped emotions, stuff like that. It's very simple, very easy to do. And I found that once I've gotten into that routine, that it really helps clear up my field quite a bit. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but, the Earth has grids, ley lines, energetic grids around the planet, and each region has their own grids. And depending on the energies, it depends on your some of your experiences. At least I found. I live in a very, very Republican, very libertarian sort of area, and I spend a lot of time cleaning up my grids because, there's a lot of going on. But I mean, another simple thing you can do is connect to the integrated grid system. And it's kind of the same method as connecting into Gaia, and allow the connection to happen and then bring the energy up into your field, and that'll cleanse your light body as well. So there's a lot of things you can do to help clear up your grids in your area. That's what I mean. All you have to do is set the intention. I'm cleaning up my grids, and that'll help you clean up your area as far as like negative, icky, sort of sticky energy.
And I want to ask you, because I know I'll get the question, but I want to ask you, why do we have to ask? Why doesn't just Gaia just do it? Why don't we just, why do we have to be why do we have to ask for like this to be done or that to be done, or clear my field, or that kind of thing?
That's the game. That's the mastery right there, is learning how to first learning what your energy body is, learning that your body has its own consciousness and that you can work with it. It's part of you, but it's got its own intelligence. Right. And learning how to spin your Merkaba, learning how to open your chakras, learning what your spin rate is, learning how to increase your light quotient. All of this stuff is like, this is mastery. This is part of the reason why we're here. So yeah, you have to ask. You have to learn, right?
Right. And it's that partnership, right? We're in partnership with the universe. We're in partnership with
Exactly.
right?
And to know man, and this is what I'm dealing with right now. Learning to truly trust the universe. You know what I mean? Like you can logically know that the universe is working for you, but to like feel it on like a cellular level is it's a big project. So,
It is. And Gina brings
yep,
up free will, right? Our choice in all of this, right? And we see
exactly.
on the daily people making a different kind of choice, right? Almost
Mhm.
counter to everything we're trying to do. But that's their choice. And they'll also kind of, and it's not like, you'll pay for it or you'll reap what you sow. It's a like you say, it's part of the game that it's cause and effect. It really is just
Yes.
you do and you receive, and you get back what you put in, and all of these things that are not only like science-y laws, but they're also spiritual laws, right?
Yes. Yes. And a big lesson for me is realizing that these people that we've kind of categorized as being bad or evil or whatever, they are us and we're them. We're all the same. And this is um, this is a lesson that we're all learning. It's not just like the goodies versus the baddies or the Republicans versus the Democrats. We're all perpetuating this cycle of what did you say during that video? It was enabler and addict,
Yeah.
which that blew my mind. I was like, you said that, and I was all, oh
It
my
blew
God,
mine
you're
too. And this is, I receive, I'm just the telephone. So, but
that
it
was
blows my
brilliant
mind
though. That
too. And I
was
have to be like, what?
yeah,
What? Oh, that's so
yep,
interesting. And the
yeah,
idea of tough love, right? We're going to be experiencing that, where we're kind of allowing them to experience what they think they want, right?
yes. And that, I mean, that brings us back to fighting fire with fire. It does not work. You
Right.
can't, energy perpetuates itself, right? So if you have this negative energy that you're trying to combat with a fearful fighting energy, that's not going to do anything. So I mean, what I'm thinking is that, or what I'm feeling rather, is that large groups of people who come together and pray for peace and pray, with love and with more of a neutrality, I feel like that's kind of what moves the needle a little bit more than the
Right.
protesting with fear and anger. So,
I want to ask you about the energy, as long as we're in this subject, the energy of apology. Not a long time ago, a few years ago, I had an experience where I was upset, but I was sincerely apologizing for a bill that had not passed in Congress. And I felt it was a real disservice to the African American community. I was upset about it, but I was apologizing at the same time. And on my Ring camera, it caught a flurry, a snowstorm of orbs just exploding. And it caused me to do a video that was an apology about about slavery and what we had done. And still to this day, people say, like, that was so powerful. That was so, because it wasn't me. It was the power of the apology, the power of saying, I'm sorry. And recently we had Biden apologized to the indigenous people for basically stealing their children and trying to teach them the Christian way, a
yeah.
couple hundred years ago. We also had in George H.W. Bush, I believe it was, who apologized for the Japanese internment camps. What does it do to the energy when you apologize, whether it's on an individual level, saying you're sorry on an individual level, and on a collective level? What does it do?
Well, that's shadow
What's
work right
happening?
there.
Right.
Well, I've been a big fan of shadow work for a while now, and that is the process of seeing a negative aspect of yourself or the collective, an aspect that you don't want to look at, an aspect that you reject, and recognizing it, recognizing it, either apologizing or accepting it back into yourself. You can't dissolve this stuff. You can't like send it away because it just festers. And that's how negative, like kind of density sort of forms and all sorts of ick happens. So for me, okay, so I'm trying to think of a good example. So if I'm walking down the street and I see a person who, I don't know, looks some way that I don't like, and I'm like, ew, you're gross. That's totally a projection of the way that I feel about myself. So if I stand back and I'm like, wait, why did I not like that person? Why did that person trigger me? It's because you're seeing a part of yourself that you don't accept in them. And so the minute that you recognize that and you're like, oh, that is me, that's part, I do that too, you recognize it, and it kind of releases it once you acknowledge, and you can apologize or you can say, I love you and I accept you. And that's shadow work. So I feel like that's kind of what was happening on a collective scale, that apology. And I just want to say, I have a good story. I have some woods down over by my house that I like to go to at night. And the night after the election, I was feeling very sorry for myself. I went down there, and I have a family of Sasquatch friends that I communicate with. And I was just so sad. And I was telling them how I was like ashamed to be a human. And I felt, I was apologizing to them. And the minute I looked up, I saw this giant orb flash past. And it just made, oh my gosh, I just got this love bomb. They were sending me this, like, I got this telepathic, like, it's okay, we love you. And I just started bawling. I was so like, it was like this love / bittersweet, like releasing of icky energy. So it really does something when you do that.
It does. Someone just said what did they say?
Transmutes.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And you can feel it. You feel it happen. There's a shift
Yes.
inside that happens. And I think about, and again, going back to this idea that it's that we're experiencing cause and effect, and what we do to others, we do to ourselves. And I think of all of the karma that America has racked up. Not only treating its own people badly in all different kinds of ways, but also getting involved in other countries and making those people feel badly. And it does. There is a reckoning, it feels like, kind of going on, where we're kind of like facing it, dealing with it, trying to transmute it. And I feel like I've always felt like part of the issue with a lot of people that seem very hateful and angry, and we'll just say Republicans, just to, just in some of those people in that group, that a lot of it has to do with not being able to, a lot of it has to do with guilt and not wanting to feel that guilt. And so it's like being pushed away, like, and then it's like there's this anger behind it. So because I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. And I think that's what's behind trying to take stuff out of history books, trying to, I don't want to know, I don't want to hear, because it is painful. When I was much younger, but learning about our history as Americans, and our history through slavery, and our history through the Civil War, it is painful. It hurts because you think, I'm a white person and this is what happened. And I carry that as whether you want to call it ancestral, whatever, whatever that is, that kind of carries it forward and meets me where I am now. It does hurt. It is painful. It's heartbreaking. And I
Yeah.
think some people don't know what to do with that. And so it turns to anger. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you come in with um all the baggage from your mother's side of the line, from your father's side of the line. And I mean, it really does it affects the way you go through life. And I think the older you get, the more intense that sort of heavy, sort of gross feeling gets. And you don't know where it's coming from. So you just lash out at different, you just project it. You lash out at different people. And it just gets to be this big, gross snowball of ick inside of you. And you're angry because you're frustrated because you don't know what to do with that, you know?
Right. And I also noticed too that those are also the same people that tend to never want to apologize, right? They
Oh,
never
I
want to say
know.
they're
I
sorry for
know.
anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's that same type of, I would say energy, but it's that same type of cycle that I think is self-perpetuating and that there's only one way to break it, right? You can't, like you said, you can't fight fire with fire. You've got to kind of
You have to
break it
acknowledge
in
it.
some way. Yeah, acknowledge it. Exactly. Um, so I wanted to ask you, this kind of about energy as well. I mean, it is about energy, but it's about physical stuff going on. So, um,
Mhm.
and especially as a practitioner, and you talked about, healing the kidney stone earlier.
Mhm.
Um, so Dolores Cannon talked a lot about the physical symptoms of a raising vibration or the physical symptoms of ascension. Um, and they were including, I mean, some of them, I can't remember all of them, but some of them were like, you want to eat less, you want to like drink smoothies and drink more, you have ringing in your ears, you might have dizziness. Um,
Yep.
do you believe that more people will experience these kinds of physical symptoms as we evolve spiritually? And are you finding any of that in your practice where you're like, oh, this is a side effect. You're experiencing side effects. You're not really sick. Is that something that's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I experience it as well. Like last summer, I was in a very like accelerated period, and I had this crazy vertigo. Like it was I could barely walk down the hallway sometimes. The vertigo was so bad. I had to stay in bed, and this lasted for about a month. And then all of a sudden it was over. And it was like, okay, I feel great now. But yeah, like I've experienced ringing in the ears. I've craved different foods. I'll wake up sometimes in the morning and I'll get different words in my head, like silica or mugwort, and I'll douse it out for myself. I like to use the pendulum to find out what my body needs, and so I'll use it for different supplements and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a thing. Just look at the solar flares and the Schumann resonance. And I've been able to track this. I don't have any of the apps or anything on my phone, but I'll wake up in the morning and I'll just have this raging headache, or I'll have like heart palpitations a little bit. And then I'll look and I'll see that, there's a big geomagnetic storm going on or something. And yeah, it's definitely a thing. So.
And if you can you name some of the, because dizziness is a thing because um, for when I in mediumship, a lot of mediums experience this kind of like swimmy headed dizziness when you go into a place that's haunted, or you go into a place. I went into the Chelsea Hotel in New York, and it was like spirits just ran up to me. That's what it felt. It felt like I was being bombarded, and I got this
Yeah.
almost dizzy where I almost like had to like think I held on to Cassie, and I was like, I'm dizzy because, but it is an energy. They run up on you and it just feels like there's this energy flow going on in your head. You feel dizzy. And so
Mhm.
are there any other symptoms that people might want to look out for? I mean, obviously go see your doctors if you think something's going on, but if they say nothing's happening, this could be the answer, right? That something's happening energetically.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I already mentioned like the vertigo and, well, like aches and pains that you can get sometimes.
What about
I
fatigue?
remember, oh yeah, big time fatigue, feeling like really heavy, not wanting to eat. Sometimes when my solar plexus is going through it, like going through an upgrade or something, I'll just feel sick. I've had times where I've just like out of the blue just thrown up, and just had one solid day where I like cannot eat anything. And then the next day I wake up and everything's fine. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, that was really weird. So let me see. Like when your chakras first open up, I have a pretty funny story. Uh, very early on in my awakening process, I was going to bed one night, and all of a sudden, my perineum buzzed, and it sat like I could hear it in my ears, and it sounded like I sat on a battery or something. My whole body was just like, "Brrr," and then it stopped, and it scared the crap out of me. I woke up and I was like, "What the heck was that?" And then I eventually fell back, getting into sleep, and it happened again. And I was like, "Oh my god, what is this? What is happening?" And the same thing happened with like my feet opened up, and it felt like my like there were like there was like popcorn popping in my feet. Just so many strange physical, because my main clair is clair sentience. So I
Mhm.
feel everything as kind of physical. So I'll feel just like rushes of energy come in when I walk into a certain place, or I have to shield up when I go to the grocery store. Sometimes I'll get overwhelmed with energy. It's a big responsibility, this process. Like you have to, it's it's a learning process, learning how to work with your energy. So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens.
There really is, and it does make clear that body, mind, spirit connection. That's just it's always there. It's always going on. But when you
Yeah.
have an experience like that, that's kind of out of the realm of understanding almost. You're kind of like, what in the world is happening? I've never felt this before, or what in the world is
Yeah.
happening? This is weird. Why is this happening now? It's a lot of times it is that, right? It's the
Hmm.
energy, or it's the energy flow, or it's you're ascending, or you've I even had the experience. I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but I've been sitting in meditation more in the last 2 weeks than I have probably ever. But
Mm.
I've had these a few times now during meditations. And it just is for about 5 or 10 seconds, but it feels like my whole body it feels like it's kind of vibrating like inside. So it feels like, almost like
Hmm.
my blood is vibrating. That's almost what
Yep.
it feels like.
Your
And then,
cells.
yes, yeah,
Hmm.
it must be cellular. And then I also, in my mind's ear, because I am a clairaudient, so I'll in my mind's ear I hear almost almost like
Yeah.
like a tuning it or something. It's very weird, but I'm like, what, am I going crazy, or what is this? But have you ever had anything like that, or
Oh
something
yeah.
similar?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Or this feeling of being like sucked, not sucked out of your body, but like you're being raised up.
Yes.
I think your light quotient, I think when that happens, your light quotient's being raised, or you're tuning to higher frequencies. I think that might be what's going on. So, but yeah, I've definitely heard that, like that whoosh, but it's like
Yes,
yeah.
it's like a rising. Yeah, it's very weird, and it definitely is kind of in your mind's ear, but it's so loud that it does feel like it's almost outside of you. It's really strange.
Yeah.
Um, so I want to go kind of into the ETs, and I don't
Oh, okay.
talk a lot about ETs on my channel. It's not that I don't think they exist, or I don't think, and I know we're not alone. I know all
Yeah.
these things, but I don't feel like it's my lane, really. I feel like it's kind of like, and I don't know why, but I don't question it. I'm just like, it's fine. It's other people's lane. They're doing it, so it's fine. Where do where do ETs fit in the family of like us and spirit guides and the spirit realm uh, and Gaia, and where do they fit in this uh, relationship? Where do they fit?
I love that question. Um, well, I mean, it's all speculation for me, but there was a book I read couple years back by Whitley Strieber called The Afterlife Revolution. And it's a story about how, so Whitley Strieber, he's the guy who wrote Communion. He had these abduction experiences in the 80s, and he's very famous for that. But his wife passed away, and after she passed away, she got back in touch with him, and she told him that it's basically all the same place. It's where the ETs live. It's where all of the interdimensionals can go, all the ultra dimensionals, I guess. It's all the same thing. So that's what I like to think.
Are they at a, so spirit is, they are, spirit is, and the spirit realm is, it's at a different frequency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always explain this. I explain this in when I do my orb.
Oh my gosh! I have to. Sorry, I have to interrupt. So you see these pyramids back here. They're organite. Yeah. One of them's lighting up across the room right now. It's like sparking on and off. It only does that when like there's some pretty high frequencies going on. So somebody's listening to us.
Oh, interesting. Awesome. Okay, so that
kind of like your angel light.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But so now I can't remember where I was.
Oh, sorry.
With that's okay. With with the ETs. I was talking about ETs, and I was talking about energy. I was talking about orbs. And
what, like density or what?
Oh, right. There. So yeah. And I explain this as, because our spirit is still kind of confined to the physical body, it's really incumbent upon us to work on ways to communicate outside of the five senses, because the five senses are limited, right? We're limited. Once our friends and family are out of their body, they're at a different frequency. So that's at a different frequency. Are ETs at yet another frequency? So as you move into these different frequencies, it's not as if they just appear now. It's like they were always there, but we couldn't see them. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the Sasquatch people work too. They're masters of vibration and frequency, and they can kind of cloak themselves, turn invisible whenever they want. I really feel like it's a spectrum with the different types of ETs that are out there. It's like with people, we all vibrate at different frequencies. So, some are a bit lower and some are super high. I've gotten into contact with these white lions that said they were from the 12th dimension, and that I got in contact with them. I was practicing channeling at the time, and I got so dizzy, I thought I was going to like throw up. It was crazy. The vibration difference was like, oh, I have to stop. I can't do this. I have to ground. It was such a vast difference. And then, I have my teams, I have my different aspects. Like I have an Arcturian aspect. I have a few different aspects. And they seem to be a bit like more at the like 6th dimensional, 8th dimensional, 9th dimensional, which are a bit easier for me to handle. So I think it's a spectrum.
Yeah, and it could explain too why some people like myself or like other people that they're just not their frequency yet, or they're not at that frequency yet, or they don't spend a lot of time at that frequency. So it's just not really. It's like not the space you're in a lot. So you're it's still kind of foreign in a way, but it doesn't mean at some point we'll all be there. we'll all be able to kind of move throughout and be able to experience all of these different things that are in these different frequencies, right?
Yeah, that's what I think. Eventually, but.
So I want to ask you, kind of before we end our time, which I've just loved. Thank you so much, Gina, for being here. And
yeah,
I put the Gina's information in the description. Somebody just said they tried it and it's not working. So I might have you send
Oh,
those again
really?
to me, Gina, and I'll put them
Yeah.
in. So don't
Sorry,
worry, we'll
guys.
figure it out.
I just set it all up. You could get a hold of me at my email address if that's something
Okay.
you'd like to do.
Yeah, give me your, well, I have your email, Gina, so I'll put it up there too. So we'll get you guys the links that you can go to get a hold of Gina.
Awesome.
But what is well, first of all, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What's the biggest energy block that you come across for people, limiting beliefs or things that kind of block them, whether it's fear or what's the most common for those types of things for people that they might want to look out for or just be aware of?
I would say doubt, shame, guilt, fear, anger. I would say those are the biggest blocks. So for me, I went for a few years just kind of focusing on my vibration. I wanted my vibration to get so high. I thought I'd find this sense of inner peace or something if my vibration was high enough. And then I realized that I wasn't really doing any inner work. I wasn't really transmuting any of my shadow because I didn't know what shadow work was. And
why don't you explain just briefly what shadow work is in case anyone doesn't know what that is or they've never done it?
Yeah, it's looking at different parts of yourself that you have always sort of shoved in the closet, in the back because you don't like those aspects or you feel like society wouldn't like those aspects. So you look at yourself and you kind of, after a while, you're able to see the mirror effect, like you look outward to the external and you see something that you don't like within someone else. And then you're able to kind of see that within yourself, and that's kind of what the resonance is. It's this negative resonance that you feel with someone else. That's why people get so triggered, because it's something within themselves that they've never wanted to look at. And then you see someone else acting this out and you're like, oh, I can't stand that. So and it's hard work. It's really not for the faint of heart. Like it's not fun. But once you get to this point, it gets easier. It gets easier every time you see it and you kind of just acknowledge it. And it's kind of like this whole integration process that happens. And so I would say that's the most important part of this whole ascension process, is really going into yourself, because you are the universe. The universe is you. Everything, all the work is done in here. Once you do enough work on the inside, you really will start to see your external reality start to change for the better. And so I would say the biggest blocks would be fear, doubt, a lack of trust in the universe. And yeah, I would say those are probably the three. Lack of trust in yourself.
Oh, gosh. I mean, and, we're talking, and this is the thing, right? We're talking about a lot of these ideas where it's like, I had this conversation with a Sasquatch. I had this conversation with an ET. I had this conversation with my guides. And getting to the level of just acceptance it's a process, right? It doesn't happen overnight. And you can go, I mean, even still, I'll be like, am I just talking to myself? What is going on? Even though I know I've had all of these experiences, but I always go back to, no, this train has left the building. I've had too many experiences at this point. And when people come to me with that kind of doubt or skepticism or cynicism, I always tell them, have your own experiences. Keep trying and keep plugging in until you have your own experiences, because that's the anecdote. That's one of the anecdotes to not trusting, to doubt. And it's also, the other thing to keep in mind too is that it's backwards in spiritual work. In the physical, it's you get proof and then you believe it. And it's backwards in spiritual work. You have to believe it and
Absolutely.
trust it, and then you get proof, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I found. And that's one of the most challenging parts for me is that literally everything is upside down. It's all from the inside out. And I'm not immune to this stuff. I'm not like, I'll be the first to admit, I don't know everything. Like I'm not, I'm just part of the way on the journey myself. I'll tell you guys a really good story that happened. It's pretty quick. Um, so right after the election, I was feeling very triggered and very like raw and sad and disappointed and so upset and just outraged. And I talked to a friend of mine who him and I are very close on the in the soul family tree. He's very close to me. So we have kind of this telepathic connection that's very strong. And so it's funny, I kind of have to be careful what I think around him. But we had a conversation and he was like, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm okay. Things are kind of gloomy around here. My wife is very upset about the election." And he told me, he was like, "Well, I heard the words Kamala's savior narrative." And that triggered the heck out of me. I was like, "How dare you? What? What are you talking about? Kamala's savior? She's not a savior for anybody, blah, blah, blah." And I got very triggered. But then I took some space away and I sat and I thought about it. And I was like, holy crap, I totally fell for that. I fell for it because in my heart, somewhere in there, I believed, I was like, oh, when Kamala gets in there, she's going to fix everything. She's going to fix it for all of us. And that's not true. We all have to do this. We can't rely on a savior. We can't rely on the ETs coming in and fixing everything. Like this is our job. This is our school. We got to do it. We got to figure out how to do it ourselves. So.
Yeah. And there's so many, even though, and we'll see how
I know. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I know that's gonna be triggering for people, and it really was for me too. But I felt at the end of the day, that's kind of what I was doing. I was giving away my power to someone else, and that's not the way to go. So anyway, go ahead.
And it's so clear when the other side does it, right? It's, oh, you're a cult, you're listening to that. And it's not so clear when it's on the other side. And you're right. I think that one of the things that she did, no matter how this shakes out, because there still might be some shakeups coming, but I feel like no matter how this shakes out, what she did do was introduce a new energy that we've missed for a long time.
That was part of it. That
joy, right?
Oh, I told my wife that I was just
here.
Yeah, that's what I told my wife. I was like, I just hadn't felt that kind of hope in so long. And it was just, God, it felt so good. It felt so good to feel like we could breathe again, like we didn't have to be on guard and worried about A, B, and C. But, in the end, it's all on us.
And the other comforting thing with that is that look how many people wanted that too, right? So we're not alone in wanting that. Right. And it wasn't, she was the catalyst, but it was all the people that were creating this. It wasn't just her. She was just the reminder that saying this is still here and we still have this ability to work together and to help each other. And I think we don't, just because this has like teetered in a way that is weird right now, we don't have to give that up, but we can do it in our own way, personally, in our own family, in our own neighborhood, but also in these communities. We don't have to give that up. It's not that it was, but I agree. It was. And I think because it's like, well, she's kind of taken out of the picture for the moment. It feels like, oh, well, then it's gone. But no, we made that happen. She was just the reminder that it's still here. Don't forget
exactly.
This, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's why it's so important for communities like yours, and, that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my channel as well, is start a community of people that has, like, a really open dialogue where we can be vulnerable and we can share our feelings and we can share our hopes, we can share our plans, and we can kind of rely on each other a little bit so that we don't have to, feel so tethered to, CNN or MSNBC. You know what I mean? Like, we have our own
Um,
community, and it's not necessarily putting our heads in the sand and just like denying everything, but it's kind of just choosing something higher, choosing a higher vibration, choosing something with love.
It's true. And I think there is a way to stay aware enough so that you can help who needs to be helped. And be
Yes.
aware enough so you can take part in the way you need to, but you don't have to be mired in it. You don't have to be
Mm-mm.
stuck in it.
It's
And I
not
think
good for you.
no, it's not. And I think the reason we were all stuck to it for a while there is because it felt so good. It felt so good to see an alternative to what we had been feeling for so
Right.
long. We thought it
Yeah.
disappeared. It hasn't disappeared. It's just that somebody needs to say, hey, remember, this is still here. And once that was kind of, I think it sparked us, awakened us, and now it's like, okay, it's here. That hope and joy energy is here. We can use it to move forward.
Yeah. We can curate it.
Yes, 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 exactly.
I love that.
So
That's so great.
lastly, Gina, I just want to ask you, what is your, just to give people some ideas and to yeah, to make them think a little bit about their own spiritual practice. What is your daily spiritual practice? What do you do?
I have this daily meditation where I open up all of my chakras. I connect to the heart of Gaia. I ask her to transmute density. And then I'll go through the chakras, like from the Earth Star chakra, which is about 6 inches below your feet. I'll open up all my chakras, and then I'll get to the top and bring the earth energy in through up all the way to source. And then I'll just bring it back down and just kind of emanate everything out. And that's about it.
That's great. I love that. Um, well, I want to just mention Bonafide Gale is also a new member. I just wanted to throw that in there before I
Yay!
forget. Yay.
Awesome.
I wanted to I wanted to just thank you, Gina, for being here, for
Absolutely.
sharing your experience, your wisdom, things you're learning, going through, heading towards. And I hope that people have found this conversation really um, helpful, but also given them some things to think about as to where to take their own practice or their own skills or to learn something new. Or I hope that it's inspiring in that way.
Yeah.
That is what I hope. I really, really do. And so, um, so where can people email you, Gina, just in
Okay.
case? And then we'll get the all of the information in the description sometime today, guys. So just keep looking there, and we'll get it there.
Yeah.
But
Sorry.
what
I
is
just
your
made
email?
a link tree, but I don't, maybe there's something up with it. So I have a channel on YouTube called Ether Flows Healing Podcast. And my email address is it's chakracon411 at
Chakra.
Gmail.
So
Yeah,
C8.
chakracon.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cute.
So
I love that.
thank you. I thought it was really clever. But yeah, you guys can just email me. For right now it's donation based sessions. So, and also, I do consultations, I do intuitive guidance, and I can douse out like a dietary plan. If you guys like kind of have questions about what foods you should eat or what supplements, I like to do that as well. And on my show, I have tons of interviews with really cool people. I have one with Kim that we did a while back, and I love it. I'm having such a great time. It's great.
That's
I'm
great.
learning so much. So
I am too. I'm learning all the time, and I wanted to say that somebody put. I just wanted to share this. Where is Brady? It is. We are here to act and pray, not just pray. I agree, Brady. Yeah, you got to. We have to. Yeah, I'll put this stuff into motion. I absolutely agree with that. But I love that, Gina. I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing, and I hope everyone has a great Sunday. Can you spell the ChakraCon? CHA
KRAKHAN 411
411 at Gmail.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Gina.
Yeah.
We will talk again soon. I will see you guys next.
Right.
I'll
Have
see
a
you
good
guys
one.
next Sunday. Thank you.
Bye.